Welcome to Never on the Back Foot. Today we take a deep dive into the illustrious career of Ravichandran Ashwin. Man's recently announced his retirement, something that a lot of us didn't really see coming, but that's Ashwin, right? Does the most unexpected things like this. And walking away on your terms is, the most ideal thing rather than being forced out of the team, or at least the kind of truth or lies we want to tell ourselves. But the point of this whole podcast is to, kind of relive some of his achievements, the kind of milestones he's etched through the eyes of Srijan, of course, who is an ardent Ashwin fan. He's also written a lovely piece on Ashwin a few, I think, months or years back, but I will make sure to link that as well. So, hi, Srijan. Welcome to Never on the Back Foot. You're in Chennai right now as we do this, podcast. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Neha. Thanks for having me on the YouTube live. And no better place to be right now other than Chennai, right? The epicenter of the Ashwin story. So feeling great, and it's good to be here.
Yeah, Srijan, because honestly, there's just so much to unpack. I think off record also we were talking about an illustrious career, 13, 14 years. Man's achieved probably things that a lot of people just wouldn't have imagined that he would, right? But let's just, start off with this to get the ball rolling. Now, Ashwin has announced his retirement. So, Srijan, what was your first reaction to the news? I mean, I think we've all been going through a lot of videos, reading a lot of these articles and just making sense of this retirement. But how have you been dealing with it?
Right. So the morning of the test match, when the tweet initially came out that one Indian star is going to announce their retirement, uh, it had to be one of either Kohli, Rohit, or Ashwin, going by the chatter that was going on social media over the past few days. But for me personally, the least expected thing that I expected out of that tweet was Ashwin, right? So even if you look at his track record over the past few years, he's been doing great with the ball and with the bat as well. Just a couple of series back, he won the man of the series again against Bangladesh. So, out of the three names that were in conversation, Ashwin was the least expected. But once the retirement came out and you could make sense of why this happened, it only seemed fair that he retired, right? So. He has been having some issues with his knee that he has documented well in his YouTube videos, and also he's been on the bench, and there was no guarantee that he would get a spot in the 11. So seldom do you find someone with 500 plus test wickets on the bench, and it only made sense. He's not getting any younger, but definitely he had a couple of years of cricket left in him. But as you said, right, it's always better to go when you're on the high and when people are asking you why rather than people ask you when, right? So that was my sense of reacting to the news.
Yeah, because just go on social media, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, the outpouring of tributes from fans, experts, teammates, former cricketers, and everyone has been plenty, right? And a lot of people really hold him as their idol and someone they really look up to. So it's really nice to kind of see these tributes coming through. But Srijan, again, just to understand more about your connection to Ashwin. I mean, when did you first become an Ashwin fan? Talk us through your journey of watching him for the course of what, a good 13, 14 years.
Yeah, so that is a very interesting story again, how I became an Ashwin fan. Uh, I really like telling the story to a lot of people. So I began watching cricket very seriously in about from about 2010, 2011, the same time that Ashwin made his debut for India. He was already an emerging name in the IPL by then. So when I saw his photos in the newspapers and when I asked around, uh, like just wanting to know who he was. People told me that he was Ashwin. He's an upcoming cricketer in India. He's already a big thing for CSK. He had already won the 2010 IPL by then, so he was in the noise at that point of time, and I instantly fell in liking with his cricket and his what he brought to the game because I used to try a lot of things when I played cricket back in the streets. I didn't play a lot, but whenever I did, I used to try and imitate what he was doing and all of that. So, being from Chennai and going to the same school as he did, uh, I was always surrounded by stories of Ashwin. Even if you ask some of my teachers, they would gladly tell you stories of when Ashwin was a student in their class. And so all of this, came about in making me an Ashwin fan. And as I evolved as a cricket watcher and a fan as well, I truly began to appreciate what he brought to the game. He was someone who was very unique in what he brought to the table, because he used to think a lot about the game, and he was very articulate in putting that out as well. So all of this, coming together and making me the Ashwin fan. And when I say a fan, I'm a fan of Ashwin. I would also not stay away from criticizing Ashwin. So it is not the typical fan that I could associate myself with. Uh, I don't like getting into fan wars of saying one player is better over the other, but from saying that I'm a fan, I would say that if there are positives, I highlight the positives. If there are negatives, I highlight the negatives. So, and that's how I try to bring a balance. And Ashwin's always brought that balance when he speaks. So, a lot of my cricket watching and my cricket liking over the years has been influenced by Ashwin.
That's actually such a beautiful point about fandom, because a lot of times
Yeah.
we just end up getting so immersed and lost in that world of fandom that we really can't separate what's going wrong, what's
Yeah.
working out well. So thank you, Srijan, for actually bringing that point. And before we actually delve deeper into Ashwin's career, I have to ask you this, Srijan: have you had a chance to read Ashwin's book, and any impressions on that?
Oh yes, I did. I still haven't read the entire book. I still have some portion of it left. The only reason why I've been reading it kind of slowly is because I don't want the book to end. Right. So, being someone whom I've admired over the years, I didn't want the book to come to an end so quickly. So yes, I did read the book, and I still have a little portion of it to read. The book, again, when I was reading the book, it starts with Ashwin as a child making his mark in school cricket, and then going to club cricket, and then making his debut for Tamil Nadu. There's very little bit of him playing for India, and it finds a mention only towards the end of the book. Going by the reviews that I've read on social media, as I said, I've still not completely read the book. Uh, so it was nice recollecting those memories, or living through his memories, because you could also see how the city of Chennai has changed over the years, how people have changed, how he has changed, or how he has evolved as a cricketer, starting as a batter, and then bowling medium pace to switching to off spin wicket because he had an injury. So the evolution of that was something that I really admired, and hopefully I can finish the book soon. So I'll have more to tell you about that once I finish the film.
And I think, Srijan, we would not complain if you write a book review as well, because you have your way with words. And it's Ashwin's book, right? I mean, I read it when it first released, and I must say it was a great book. Collection of very small, small stories that add up to something big. Everything that has shaped him to be him. I definitely hope, and I think you will agree with me at the end as well, that there should be a part two, part three. Just keep an anthology for what it's worth, because of the kind of stories and so much that he has to offer. But to all our viewers watching as well, to read Ashwin's book. I mean, no better time than this. Man is just retired, so gives you a lot of perspective into what kind of shaped him, and manifesting a part two, part three of that book. But
Oh yeah,
again,
sorry to
Srijan,
interject. Sorry to interject here, but
yeah.
yes, the part two and part three are coming. So when in the book release function, he told that this is just one part of his story. So there are a lot many more parts that he would have coming out in the next few years. So that's definitely something that we can look forward to.
Yeah, because honestly, it just felt very incomplete, just ending at like when his India career just started, and a few highlights from there. So, hoping that we get to read those versions as well. But again, now Srijan, just asking you more on this part of the retirement itself, right? I mean, do you think this was the right time? Because in yesterday's live also we were talking about the timing of the retirement coming midway in the series. We've seen this of Dhoni doing it in 2014, Ashwin doing it in 2024. Do you think this was the right time? And yeah, we just have to accept it now.
Yeah, I think this was the right time, because if you look at how the team has gone over the last few months, Come the New Zealand series, Washington Sundar, came back into the team, made his mark, picked up 7 wickets, was kind of decent with the bat. And then even in Australia, he was the first spinner to start in the Perth Test. So Ashwin, his place in the side was kind of becoming a question mark, and you never really knew if he would find a place in the other test matches as well. So being on the bench is difficult sometimes, and at that age that Ashwin is in his career at this point of time, it becomes extremely difficult to be on the bench for an extended period of time. And then we also don't have a lot of test matches coming up. The other series is in England. That's a 5 test match series, and if we qualify for the World Test Championship, that's another test match that we have, and we also are not sure if Ashwin would find a place there. So uh, it's better to go again. As I said, it's better to go when people ask you why rather than people ask you when. So kind of the right time. The other spinners who are making good waves in the domestic cricket setup right now can make their way. Washington Sundar is one, Manav Sutar is another one. So uh, plenty of spinners, not a lot of off spinners though, but plenty of spinners who've done well in domestic cricket over the last few years. And it's also time for them to make their mark, right? So I think this was the right time that Ashwin did.
Fair enough, Srijan. But again, I think a lot of folks have been speculating, right, as to why this retirement came. One of the reasons that was thrown was perhaps that poor series against New Zealand, where he was such a pale shadow of his very dominant self on Indian soil. And even, as you rightly mentioned, him, getting snubbed and Washington Sundar getting that opportunity in the Perth Test as well. Do you think all of these factors could have probably led to that? Because again, when you just look back at the New Zealand series, it was so difficult to watch Ashwin not get wickets as regularly, as frequently as we would have expected. So, what were your impressions of him in that series as well? If you could just add that here.
Yeah, the New Zealand series was kind of when you got an indication that this might not last for long. But over the last few years, I tend to watch a lot of his videos on YouTube as well, and he has indicated that he has been on a very good mind frame over the last few years. The pandemic has sort of changed his perspective on the game, his perspective on his teammates, his colleagues, and all of that. But just given that he was in a very good mind frame going by what he said on his YouTube channel, I hope that he would continue for a few more series at least. But again, we never knew if he could find a place in the 11, given that we don't have any home tests scheduled. And the New Zealand series, as you mentioned, was something that was difficult to watch for me as well, because over the last few years and decades, right? In over the last decade, you gotten used to the fact that if it's a home test, you had Ashwin and Jadeja to pick up the wickets, most of the wickets, and both of them were a pale shadow of themselves in the past. So you got a indication that this might be the beginning of the end, and it did come to an end, right? He only picked up 9 wickets in the New Zealand series, if I'm not wrong. So all good things must come to an end, and this did so. This did too. So over the last 12 years, when India has had a stellar record at home, Ashwin's being at the centerpiece of it, and this series is the only series with the England series in 2012 that he's been part of, and we've lost at home. So uh, began with a loss, ended with a loss. So otherwise, it's been a great career, and I can't say more. It's been the right time. I think I still think that this is the right time, and we have the other spinners also trying to make their mark, and they would come in and also try to make an impression. So things move on, and so I also chose to move on from here.
Yeah, I mean, when you tell it this way, it certainly
Yeah.
puts things in perspective because India does have a lot of options that they can perhaps rely on going ahead. It's not like, we're shortchanged and we just have no other options to look at. But Shrija, let's just look at Ashwin's records in the SENA countries. For the uninitiated, SENA countries is South Africa, England, New Zealand, and Australia, where it's considered the holy grail. If you perform here, matlab, yeah, you're like the next big thing. Ashwin has often found it very difficult, right, to cement his place in the team whenever we are touring the SENA countries. So, Srijan, what have your observations been of that? Do you think India was always harsh on Ashwin because he was not able to get you those breakthroughs, say, in the early part of his career that kind of seeped through in the later part? Or did you just think it was a fair call based on the conditions and everything?
I look at this in two ways, right? So in the early part of his career, say from 2011 to 2014, uh, he again said in an interview that every time he boarded a flight to say England or Australia or wherever, he always wanted to come back home, right? Because he felt so out of place because uh, the results are not coming, right? And then you saw a change in the methodology that he applied to his bowling, say in 2018, 2019. The 2020 Australia tour, the BGT tour, was a remarkable one, right? So in two halves, right? The first half where he was kind of inexperienced, first time touring those countries, and when you tour as a spinner, when you tour the SENA countries for the first time, it's always difficult, right? But when he went back the second time, he was a better version of himself, and I could not help but illustrate what he did in the 2020 Australia series, the 2020-2021 Australia series, where uh, he came in Melbourne, he came in Adelaide as well, the Sydney Test. Uh, he bowled well, and he got wickets as well. It's not that whenever you toured these SENA countries, he didn't get you wickets. Given those conditions, he performed his role well, right? And Ashwin's a sort of bowler that can be an attacking bowler as well as a defensive bowler. So he can perform those dual roles with the ball, and he can give you 20, 30 runs with the bat. Coming in at number 8, you can't expect more. And given that he sort of performs this role, you would expect that he should have played a lot more tests in SENA countries. But in that respect, I think India has been sort of unfair to Ashwin. But given what he's done, or given the later part of his career, you can say that he's done a fairly good job in SENA countries. And had he played more, had he gained more experience, he could have done a little better. So it's always good to look at things in hindsight and say that you could have done things better. But as things stand, given his stats in countries abroad, you could say that as a spinner, he did his role well, and you couldn't ask for more.
Well, that is true because I was having a look at his numbers, and his record away from home has improved significantly in 6 years. He has got 149 wickets in 39 tests, and an average of 30.4, and his strike rate of 62.8. I mean, it was tough. There were some tricky calls that India had to take, based on the conditions. So, not very surprised that India would omit him from that. But again, now, Srijan, like, how would you, rate or rank Ashwin amongst the greatest spinners, right, in the history of the game? Because for India, of course, we always have, the threshold of Anil Kumble, like he's an absolute legend. We have Harbhajan Singh. But even globally, we look at the likes of, Murli Dharan and Shane Warne. But where does Ashwin rank for you in that list?
Definitely on the top. So uh, I must admit that I've not watched a lot of Murali or Kumble live. All that I've watched is through YouTube and the material that is available on social media. Uh, but in the spinners that I've watched, say from 2011, there's Ashwin, there's Nathan Lyon. I cannot think right now. I mean, there's Graham Swan as well. For a brief period, he did do well for England. So amongst these spinners, and even globally, if you try to rank Ashwin, he is phenomenal, right? Even just looking at the numbers, he has an average that is better than Shane Warne. So just by numbers and the overall impact that he's had on the game, uh, not just with the ball but with the bat as well. Nobody has 500 wickets and 6 Test centuries, right? So definitely one of the all-time greats, and definitely right up there with all the greats, right, that you mentioned, Kumble, Muralidharan, and Ashwin himself in that illustrious list. So definitely for me, uh, looking at the impact that he's had on this game, both with the bat and the ball, definitely one of the all-time great spinners.
Absolutely, and even just looking at the kind of impact that both him and Jadeja had, right? It was impeccable for India, especially the past decade or so. How much are you going to miss them, bowling in tandem? Because now Jadeja will have to look for newer partners. So massive, vacuum there to fill.
Yeah, definitely. And for whoever is coming into the side, it's going to be huge shoes to fill, right? And right now, the incumbent is Washi. Uh, the thing with Washi is that I feel he's not someone who can turn the ball a lot. He is someone who can, contain the bowling, and he's not an attacking spinner, right? Maybe he develops that aspect of his game going forward. He's still very young and has age on his side. So let's hope for that. But coming in for Ashwin, right? It's definitely going to be a difficult place to fill, and even Jadeja and Ashwin, the kind of impact that they've had over the last decade, as you mentioned, is impeccable, and a lot of our success at home has to go to them, both with the bat and ball. Ashwin and now Washington Sundar, his credentials with the bat are unquestioned. I mean, you cannot question them. He is, in my opinion, a better batter than a better bowler at this point of time. He's someone who can, definitely bat in the top five or top six. And with the ball, he still has room for improvement, and he will, improve as he gets more game time. Even Jadeja, right? He is also 36, 37 at this point of time, not getting any younger. So we are in a transition, and we need to look at who's going to come in for Jadeja as well. Might be Aksar, might be Kuldeep. Uh, Definitely, we are moving into the next phase of Indian cricket, and when you look back at Ashwin and Jadeja, you cannot be anything but thankful for them for what they've done. And this pair and these two cricketers have been, phenomenal for India, and that reflects on our success as well. So definitely a lot thankful for them, the both of them.
Yeah, I mean, even the way Ashwin and Jadeja talk about each other, right, in a lot of other interactions we see, it comes from a place of a lot of respect. I think Ashwin kind of envies Jadeja as well, for the kind of fitness he has, the
Yeah.
athleticism he brings in, and all of that. But I think what really sets apart Ashwin is the fact that he could always reinvent, right? Come up with those new variations, try something different, and that's what kept him relevant for the longest time. I mean, just look at his illustrious career, winning the 2011 ODI World Cup, the 2013 Champions Trophy. The one unfortunate thing that's missing in his trophy cabinet, of course, has to be the World Test Championship trophy, which I hope somehow magically happens in this cycle. But I mean, he's retired, but still. Again, Srijan, how would you look at that? I mean, he's achieved so much in white ball cricket as well, but a WTC trophy is one thing that's probably going to hurt a little.
Yeah, definitely. Him not being there for the WTC final, if we qualify and if we win it, is definitely going to be a bummer, because over the last few years, the last decade, the kind of impact that he has had on the game for India has been, again, phenomenal. He has been one of the centerpieces of our success story, and definitely one of the OGs, as he mentioned, right? So him not going to be there is something that's going to be difficult to watch. But again, even his white ball credentials, his white ball achievements are no less. Being in the 2011 World Cup, he didn't play a lot of games, but the West Indies game and the quarterfinal against Australia, the 2013 Champions Trophy. Uh, just yesterday, I was watching an interview of him, speaking about the 2013 Champions Trophy. The first game of that Champions Trophy, he went wicketless, and then he went to Dhoni, and Dhoni was saying to him that, your time will come, just wait for it. And then he delivered in the final. The last ball to James Threadwell when he needed 6 or 1. The iconic pause that he had in the action and then delivered the ball. All of this is, something that is to be cherished. And he did deliver in the white ball formats as well. The thing with Ashwin is nobody associated him to be a red ball bowler, because he came through the IPL, and a lot of people tend to think that he is an IPL product. Not a lot of people, rated him as a test match bowler. And today, as we stand, his test match bowling figures or his records in test match cricket are far better than, uh, the white ball the white ball format. So definitely, great achievements over the last decade, and one of the all-time great Indian cricketers for India.
Yeah, and we were really lucky to, kind of witness his spin wizardry. Like from close quarters, because again, he's just what, the second Indian bowler after Anil Kumble to reach that coveted mark of 500 Test wickets. Can you imagine 500 Test wickets in just what, 100 odd Test matches? And he did it in, again, a very short span, like 98 Tests. But she said, why do you think he was such an underrated genius? I mean, when we talk about like the best spin bowlers, I mean, very few actually tell Ashwin. They usually take the most common suspects ke names, like the likes of Kumble, Shane Warne, Muralidharan. But do you hope that going ahead, the future generations will actually remember Ashwin the legend and for everything he has done for Indian cricket?
Yeah, I definitely hope so. And as you rightly mentioned, when someone has to pick the lot of spinners, right? The best lot of spinners, someone you would much rather expect them to say a Kumble or a Muralidharan over Ashwin, right? And that's kind of sad if you kind of think of it, because as we keep mentioning in this live session, that he has had a very definable impact in Indian cricket, right? And he's sort of gone under the radar a lot of times, and he still continues to do, whether it be with the ball or the bat, or even his captaincy aspect for that matter. Like he's captained the Tamil Nadu side, his captain sides in the IPL, but never really got to captain India. That's something that I regret personally. And he has always remained that underrated genius that we've had. And fortunately or unfortunately, some for certain people or certain cricketers, it's always the case that they remain underrated, despite what they've done for Indian cricket. Right? It's just the way it is, and it's quite unfortunate if you think of it. And Ashwin definitely for a fact is not the kind of person who you would find on billboards, you would find on all the newspaper advertisements or television, all of that. But just looking at his contribution for Indian cricket, I think we couldn't be more thankful that we've got to witness it. And as I said, it's only sad that he's remained underrated, not just now but over the course of this decade. So unfortunately, it's just the way it is, and sadly we cannot do anything about it. But a great cricketer at that.
Honestly, I'm hoping for this narrative to change, right? Because Ashwin, I mean, has been the absolute legend. Single-handedly led India to so many famous Test victories. I hope he certainly gets his due, in the due course of time. But again, just looking at Ashwin and the way his bowling has evolved over the years, a lot of times he found himself out of favor. He went back to the drawing board, worked on coming up with some new tricks up his sleeve. Sometimes even going full sleeves and all of that. But Srijan, how did you evaluate all of his variations? I mean, the cannon ball initially when he started off, then coming up with those faster deliveries, and just always thinking on his feet, right? He's someone who really reads the game well, tries to execute as much as he can. And a lot of former cricketers and coaches have spoken about the kind of conversations they've had with him. He's, a very curious person, asks a lot of questions and all of that. So, how have you seen that facet of his personality?
Yeah, definitely someone who always likes to think, always likes to experiment, be a better person, or be a better bowler, or be in general just be a better cricketer than what he was the previous day. That's something that I define Ashwin as. And when he found himself out of favor in the white ball formats in 2017-18, he went back to the drawing board, developed a couple of new variations. I still remember. I think it was the 2019 IPL or the 2018 IPL, when he found himself out of favor, and leg spin was all of the rage in international cricket. All the international teams had at least a couple of good leg spinners in their 11. That entire season, Ashwin just went about bowling leg spin. He didn't get a lot of success, but here he was, trying to see that if it worked for him, and if he could make a comeback to the Indian team, right? So that's Ashwin for you. Always thinking, always on his feet, always ready to experiment, and he's always trying to be a better person or a better cricketer than what he was yesterday. So that's something that stands out for me when I look back at Ashwin's career. So uh, he's evolved over the years, and we've been fortunate, or we've had the privilege to see that. And uh, yeah, I mean, something that we all can learn as well, right? So that's there about Ashwin.
Yeah, because I know this shouldn't seem like us, just praising Ashwin, but we seldom come across cricketers, right, who constantly want to learn, evolve, and keep trying to bring in new aspects to the game. If we just look at Ashwin, right, a lot of people don't talk about Ashwin the batter. I mean, getting 6 Test centuries is no mean feat. I think in his book too, right? I'm sure you must have come across this segment where he talks about, visualizing, batting with Sachin Tendulkar,
Hmm.
and making some crucial runs for India and
Hmm.
all of that. Again, Srijan, your impressions of Ashwin the batter and how he has bailed India out of trouble on just so many occasions that we don't talk enough about it, right?
Right. Again, the bowling part of it, if you say it's underrated, I can agree. The batting part of it, I can agree more because we've never given him the credit of being the batter that he is. Started off his career as an opening bat. Uh, Even today, if you look at a few of the Tamil Nadu cricketers, Aniruddha Srikanth in particular, the son of Krishnamachari Srikanth, he always rated Ashwin as a better batter than a better bowler. He rated Ashwin the batter first and then the bowler. So he's someone who's always had that batting skill in him. And it's kind of unfortunate that in one of the previous questions as well, we were reflecting that he has not found a place in the 11 when we toured abroad. And one of the primary reasons why he has not found a place is that people never really rated his batting. Coming in at number 8, he could definitely score those 20-30 runs with the bat, and from a number 8 you don't expect more, right? If your number 8, if you expect a lot from your number 8, then your top order is doing something wrong. So that's something that you need to go back and look at. And even in the IPL for Rajasthan Royals, he was used as a floater, came up and down the order when the team needed him to do it, and he was the ones who played those really quick cameos for Rajasthan Royals. So again, if the bowler is not celebrated more, it still feels sad. But if the batter is not celebrated and if he is not recognized for his batting, that feels even more sad. So that's just the cricketer that Ashwin is. Good with both aspects of the field, both batting and bowling. But unfortunately, both of them I feel are not celebrated enough as much as they need to be. So that's just the way it is.
Yeah, the unfortunate way it is, and I hope, through a lot of discussions like this and all the tribute pieces that is coming across, people actually stand up and take account of, everything that Ashwin has done. But again, just going a little back in time, when Ashwin did make his test debut way back in November 2011, I think his first challenge was to, fill the big shoes of Harbhajan Singh, who was, in the twilight of his career, and you needed someone to, kind of step in and deliver. So, Srijan, did you ever think that Ashwin could actually fill those big shoes, and just excel the way he did?
Yeah, those of Harbhajan Singh were definitely big shoes to fill, as you mentioned. Uh, Harbhajan Singh, in his own right, he is a legend of Indian cricket. Again, it so happens that uh, I don't know if I can say this, but sometimes you look at Harbhajan Singh and what he says, he sometimes is still salty about him losing his place to Ashwin. And I don't think that's right because, the time that Ashwin stepped into the international scene was when Harbhajan Singh was sort of in his decline. He didn't play a lot of test matches after that when once Ashwin started making his mark. And Ashwin left no stone unturned, right? Right from the very go. He picked up 9 wickets in his debut test match, and then it was only a fairy tale after that. And those are big shoes to fill, and Ashwin did a really good job. Even though when we toured abroad, he couldn't find his place in the 11. Uh, Ashwin did more than what it was expected out of him, and if you wanted to compare Harbhajan Singh and Ashwin, the role that Ashwin added more with the bat also was something that went in Ashwin's favor. And Yes, he did do a good job. And after a point, we never really felt the absence of Harbhajan Singh. And then Jadeja came along. There was Pragyan Oja for a bit. So the spin traditions that we are so famous for continued in the form. And then I still hope that that continues. We still do have a lot of new spinners coming up. So one there is one spinner who comes in, establishes themselves in the limelight for a period of time, and then they go in the decline, and the next spinner comes in, and that's how the cycle continues. And I hope it still does continue for Indian cricket to be in the ascendancy for a long time.
Yeah, as they say, history repeats itself. I mean, Harbhajan was replaced by Ashwin. Now we see, potentially someone like a Washington Sundar take his place. But that is the course of life, and I hope Washington doesn't kind of succumb under pressure or lose himself in this whole transition process. But again, just looking at how India's test performances have been right in that past decade, I think this coincided so much with Ashwin's peak form as well, right? So, how important do you think that Ashwin's presence has been in that Indian setup and also to India's dominance, right? Especially at home in test matches?
Right, very much so. The fact that we've not lost a Test match series at home in the last 12 years, a lot of that has to go to Ashwin. Uh, on all three aspects, right? The batting part of it, he scored 5 Test centuries and six Test centuries in the last decade. With the ball, his exploits are well documented. The kind of impact that he's had with Jadeja, again, phenomenal. And from a leadership perspective as well, I think that even though he might not have captained India officially, uh, he was definitely part of the leadership setup back in the dressing room, from what we can gather, and the kind of impact that he had back in the dressing room when not on the field are also something that needs to be spoken about. So, on all these aspects, I think India is really fortunate to have had Ashwin over this period. And as you said, right, the fact that we've been dominating at home also coincided with the peak of Ashwin's form. So, again, we were really fortunate to have watched that over the last decade, and it's been great, recalling those memories and what India has been through the journey. And Ashwin's been at the centerpiece of it, so I couldn't be happier.
No, this is so true because Ashwin's contribution has again gone so much under the radar that people end up focusing on, Virat, the batter, doing so well for India in that home season, the likes of Pujara and all of them stepping up. But just looking at Ashwin's form, right, especially in that 2016 2017 test season, man was literally unstoppable. So, Srijan, what were your impressions of what made Ashwin so lethal in that phase? And he was just in such a purple patch, man. I mean, what are your impressions?
Right. So again, I was just going through one of the articles yesterday. So again, when you say 2016, 2017, you associate that with a 17 test home season that we had. We had England coming over. We had Bangladesh also. We had New Zealand also. So a lot of teams toured India at that point of time. We had Anil Kumble, who was the head coach. Uh, Ashwin and Kumble's relationship is well documented. Ashwin, has also gone on record to say that Kumble has had a lot to contribute. We had Australia also in that series, in that season. I'm sorry. Ashwin has gone on to say that a lot of his success at that point of time was also thanks to Kumble. And when you say 2016, 2017, the first picture that comes to your mind is Virat Kohli, the beast that he was in international cricket in that season, in all three formats, right? Yet the cricketer of the ICC cricketer of that year was Ravichandran Ashwin. So that's the kind of impact that he had in that season. And even if you look back at those kind of pitches that we produced for that home season, except for say in Pune against Australia and Bangalore against Australia, most of the wickets that we had were not dust bowls or not rank turners. And in those most of the wickets were very sportive in the way that they played out. We saw a lot of batters make runs, and in those conditions, for Ashwin to step up and be the ICC cricketer of the year was phenomenal, because we also had someone like Kohli, who was also in the purple patch of his career. So uh, maybe not a lot of people remember this, but given Kohli's stats in those years, Ashwin was still the cricketer of the year. So that was the purple patch for him and a lot of other Indian cricketers as well. Uh, and it reflected in our performances as well, right? So the fact that he could, be effective with the bat, could exploit the conditions with the ball, made him so unstoppable in that period.
Yeah, and just looking back at some of the highlights and the performances India had in that season, it was fantastic. For all the losses we faced against New Zealand, just going back to the past sometimes is very comforting. But even I'm glad, you brought in the aspect of Virat Kohli, because Ashwin has had such a long partnership with Virat Kohli. In so many interviews, he talks about how, Virat comes up with the most offbeat, like, field choices, and just backs and supports Ashwin to do his thing. So how do you think their relationship again, impacted Ashwin's performances on the field? I mean, you can look at it both ways. Positively, because it ended up yielding a lot of wickets for India. But the times when Virat's captaincy ensured Ashwin was not a part of the playing 11 must have also had its impact, no?
Correct. And as you rightly mentioned, a lot of Ashwin's success as a bowler has come under Virat Kohli. When you think about Virat, you associate him with being the bowler's captain. You associate him with backing the pacers a lot more than the spinners. But a lot of Ashwin's success, he's played a large part of his career under Virat, and again, as you mentioned, the field placements and all of that were credit to Virat. And there's this one interview with Vikram Sathe where he talks about Virat the fielder, Virat the captain, right? The 2015 test against Sri Lanka in Gaul, where he documents that the ball was coming out so well from his hand, and Virat suggested that he keep a short leg and a mid wicket. So, and then the catch that Kumar Sangakkara gives to Virat, it's just pure bliss when you listen to Ashwin, narrate that, and you could feel that you are part of the journey as well. So, as you rightly mentioned, a lot of Ashwin's success has come under Virat the captain and Virat the fielder as well. The other part of it was, Ashwin not being backed when India toured abroad. Again, as we reflected in one of the previous questions as well, he should have found a lot, many more test matches when India toured abroad, but unfortunately it didn't be so. And when Ravi Shastri, kind of made a remark that Kuldeep is the number one spinner going forward after the 2018 tour to Australia. Ashwin said that he was kind of let down and felt as he was thrown under the bus. But the next time India was there in Australia, a lot of India's success has to go to Ashwin as well. Be it the Sydney Miracle, or the way he started things off in Adelaide, or the way he got Steve Smith on a couple of occasions in that in that Australia series in 2020, 2021, shows the way that he turned around things and made sure that people changed the perspectives that they had about him. So that's again coming to the fact that he always reinvented, always felt that he needs to be a better cricketer. All of this again, if I recall, gives me a lot of joy, and it's been part of Ashwin the cricketer and Ashwin the test match bowler specifically. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I mean, he was an entirely different beast, when it came to reading the game and kind of, trusting Virat enough, with those field placements and everything. But let's also talk about some of his fiercest rivalry. I mean, I'm really happy you brought in the point of Steve Smith, because the Ashwin versus Steve Smith rivalry, we have seen it play enough a lot, and a lot of antics, like, Ashwin doing all of this,
Yeah.
and a lot of funny things have happened. But what were your favorite rivalries that he had? Like, battles, he just clearly made them their bunnies, and some, equations you like that way?
Oh, Ashwin versus Stokes, or Ashwin versus Kumar Sangakkara in 2015 was something that I really enjoyed. Ashwin versus Alistair Cook was also something that was well documented. All the three of them that I just mentioned, well, are left-handers. Ashwin versus left-handers is a contest that you can enjoy any given day. I think now that he's retired, a lot many left-handers are breathing it easy now that they don't have to face him in international cricket. He was a menace against left-handers. But Ashwin versus AB was also something that I look forward to, and Ashwin versus Glenn Maxwell. He has got the better of Maxwell on a couple of occasions in the IPL. He's also had, uh, Maxwell scored a lot of Ashwin, or a lot of against Ashwin as well, and then Ashwin got back at Maxwell as well. So with the ball, so those are the contests that I really enjoyed. And Ashwin versus Smith, as I previously mentioned as well, how he turned things around in that 2020-21 series in Australia. he mentally had a one up against Smith, and that was reflecting every time he came up to bowl and Smith was uh, at the crease. He was a little tentative. So those were the contests that I really enjoyed.
I'm glad, all of this jogs a lot of memories of, Ashwin and his famous battles against these batters. And much as we've been raving about, Ashwin and the kind of successes he's had, red ball and all of that, I think one of the, I don't know, themes of his career was kind of, cementing his place in the white ball sports, right? As much as we would have liked to see him, the team management didn't really think on that page. So, what do you think were some of the key reasons of his struggles in in ODIs and T20s? I mean, we did celebrate when he made it into India's squad for the 2021 T20 World Cup, 22 World Cup as well, but he just didn't get enough opportunities. A few games here and there, but that struggle in white ball cricket was very apparent for all of us to see.
Yeah, a lot of them have to be courtesy the rules that we have for white ball cricket, especially ODIs. Right, we have two new balls at either end, and then each ball is only 25 overs old at the end of the innings. And with a fairly new ball, even though he's a very good new ball bowler, a very good power play bowler in the white ball formats, is that he couldn't make use of the conditions more as he would have against the old ball. Uh, a lot of them primarily to do with the conditions, the rules, in fact, and then even the power play rules, right? The batting power play and the field restrictions that had to say that a leg spinner would be preferred because they challenge both edges of the bat, and if you take your chances against a leg spinner, the probability that you would get a wicket is more when compared to an off spinner, right? So a lot of them have to be with the kind of conditions that we've had for white ball cricket and the rules that we've had for white ball cricket than who Ashwin was with the ball. So not they were not to do with Ashwin the bowler, but the rules again. And unfortunately, the conditions and those rules, made sure that spinners, especially off spinners, were not a commodity in white ball cricket in those times. But again, him coming back to the white ball setup in 2021, he was still there in 2022 when we went to Australia, and that 23 World Cup as well is something that as you mentioned, he didn't get a lot many more opportunities, but if he did, I'm sure he would have had an impact. But that's just the way that things are, right? Uh, you look back at his career and you feel that he could have got a lot many more opportunities with the white ball than he has, but that's just hindsight. And there was a lot that Ashwin had to offer with the white ball, but given the conditions and given the rules, it was just that he couldn't move it forward.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, such is the way of life, I mean, hindsight is a wonderful teacher, so we can always look back and be like, maybe, India should have probably persisted with Ashwin, given him more opportunities in white ball cricket. But as you rightly said, a lot, like boils down to how much India needed him at that situation. And I think Ashwin has also very vocally spoken about it, like, the excitement on being selected for those white ball tournaments and how much he had to offer, but unfortunately the rules and everything changing, things were getting really hard. And also, Srijan, earlier in our conversation you were talking about how we the world never got to witness Ashwin the captain. Man had a lot of insights and that whole leadership quality which just went very untapped, unexplored in the international arena. But do you ever think he had it in him to captain India at any stage? Maybe that transition from Virat to Rohit, maybe somewhere we could have had an Ashwin captain India a bit, or do you just think it was a little far fetched?
Yeah, thinking back, that's one phase that I still feel that you could have given Ashwin a go as the captain when we were transitioning from Virat to Rohit. Rohit and Ashwin are of the same age category, both are 38. Uh, even though it might have seemed that it was a wrong step, you reward your seniors for being around with the team for so long, right? And Ashwin's been a captain for the Tamil Nadu cricket team. He's captained a few IPL sides as well. But for him not being there as the captain of India is something that's unfortunate and something that could have happened. But again, as you said, hindsight is the best teacher. Probably looking at things from hindsight, you say that this could have happened and probably would have given us different results. But if you look at the team management's reasoning for not having him in the side as a captain was that when we toured abroad, his place in the side was not a surety. Again, as we've reflected over the past few minutes in this live, uh, he was someone who could have given you those 20-30 runs with the bat, even in those conditions abroad, and either held up one end as a containing bowler or gone for the attack as an attacking bowler. He could do both the roles, but unfortunately, as things stand, he couldn't find a place in the side when India toured abroad, which is unfortunate. But again, one of the greatest travesties of Indian cricket is not witnessing him as the captain. That is my opinion.
Fair, because had he not retired now, probably after this World Test Championship cycle and possibly Rohit Sharma stepping down, there were like a lot of options that India would consider, say the likes of Jasprit Bumrah. Ashwin was, one of the names coming to my mind, but then again, with the age kind of not playing in his favor and him not being a short pick in the playing 11. I think, yeah, that would be really difficult to have him captain. But I really think we missed out on Ashwin, the captain. I hope he, goes back to Tamil Nadu. I mean, he did indicate that he's going to be playing a lot of club cricket, hopefully domestic cricket as well. He plays for Tamil Nadu and leads them to victory in Ranji Trophy. So, Srijan, do you see that possibly playing out? Like him actually going on to captain the Ranji Trophy side and eventually then going on to lift the trophy?
Yeah, it definitely could. And when you listen to Ashwin, right, you realize that one of his dreams for Tamil Nadu is trying to win the Ranji Trophy. And in the last 30, 40 years, Tamil Nadu has not won a Ranji Trophy. I think the last time we won was 1988. So that's still way back. And we've not won a Ranji Trophy since. And even if you listen to a lot of his interviews, he says that his dream is to win the Ranji Trophy for Tamil Nadu. So that could be a possibility, and Ashwin captaining would just be a cherry on top of the cake. So let's hope, or let's keep our fingers crossed that it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be the perfect farewell, or like as you said, a cherry on the cake for someone like Ashwin. Rich legacy and so much to look back. And I think I should have asked you this question earlier, Srijan, but it just hits me now. When you just look at Ashwin's entire international career, I mean, you followed it up close and personal. Was there a moment that you felt was like, this is the defining moment? This is where the world actually stood up and took notice of this young man from Tamil Nadu who just had so much to showcase to the world. Any defining moment that's coming to your mind?
Um, so, I mean, surprisingly, one defining moment that I still would go back to is the Border Gavaskar Trophy in 2020. When you toured abroad, you always felt that Ashwin was not your bowler who could give you wickets or who could, be with the bat for you. But the way he changed perspectives, though it was very late in his career, I feel that that was the defining moment for me because the way he had Smith over him, and then even with the bat, if you look at that period of Ashwin's career, right, his batting was sort of falling apart. He didn't have a lot of starts with the bat. In 2016, he was batting at number 6 in the 11, and then in 2018 or in 2020 rather, people were starting to question whether he was really a good all rounder. The way he changed perspectives, and that's something that he has said over and over again. A lot of his career has gone in trying to prove people right rather than in trying to prove people wrong, right? He had to prove that he deserved to be there, and all of that has gone to reflect in the cricketer that he is in the later years of his career. So for me, that defining moment in Ashwin's career has to be the Border Gavaskar Trophy in 2020.
Fair enough. I mean, that definitely has to be one of the moments. And I think as much as, we try to absorb and, just process this whole retirement, let's also acknowledge, I think, the challenges, right, that India is going to face going ahead. You need someone to kind of replace Ashwin and do a similar role, if not something better. You can slowly see, right, that the glorious test team that Virat had constructed, taking over from Dhoni back then and Rohit leading now, is just falling apart. We don't see the likes of Rahane and Pujara being in the setup. Ashwin retires now. Virat and Rohit are almost at the brink of, I don't know, like people keep telling twilight of their careers. So, yeah, Srijan, how does that make you feel that, this dominant Indian side is just like slowly falling apart, and we are headed for this transition as much as we don't want to kind of acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's life, right? Sometimes you are at the peak of it and then you want the peak to continue for a long time, but it just doesn't. You have to go through a trough and then slowly come back to the peak again. And I think that's what is happening with the Indian cricket team at this point of time. A lot of the players that we've grown up watching right from the time we've watched cricket in 2010 and 11 have slowly started coming towards the end of their careers, and new stars will emerge as it should. And let's just keep hoping and backing that these stars just do better, or if not better, as much as what the previous generation has done. And let's just keep giving our support to all of them who make it to the 11 and who make it to the side. And if we keep supporting and if we keep backing our players, I think the results will definitely follow. So that's just with not just with Ashwin and Jadeja or Rohit and Kohli, but the entire team as well. So we've been in a transition, and the transition is going to get larger in the coming years with a lot many more stars also retiring. But just let's keep backing our players, supporting them equally as we did over the last decade. Keep the same excitement going, and then I'm sure we'll have the results.
Yeah, I think the key word here being, patient with the process, because a transition is never easy, and Indian cricket at times has had struggles, dealing with it and kind of, finding the next crop of players. But I'm sure, the test team is in good hands, and we will find the right kind of successes as well. But again, it's coming back to Ashwin, right? I mean, he's had such a great career. He's just called time on his cricketing career. But what next for Ashwin, right? Do you see him as, continuing his very productive YouTube career, probably donning the role of a broadcaster, a coach, or even an analyst in the near future? Like, where do you want to see him?
There's so much that Ashwin can do, right? And as Ashwin himself said, you can take the cricketer out of Ashwin, but you cannot take cricket out of Ashwin, right? He's someone who is always going to be with the sport in Indian cricket in some capacity, and let's just hope that that continues. Uh, Ashwin off the field has been involved in a lot, many more ventures that uh, I don't think a lot of people know. So he runs a cricket academy called the Gen Next Cricket Academy. A few of the players that they have produced have gone on to play the TNPL. He's someone who has also worked with some of the younger talents in Tamil Nadu. Uh, so Sai Sudarshan is one name that comes up for me. In one of his YouTube lives, he said that when he watched Sai Sudarshan for the first time, he was so impressed of the way that Sai Sudarshan played Ashwin, in fact, and he rang up Sai Sudarshan's dad and told him to make him play for Ashwin's club. And also Andre Siddharth, who recently made news for being selected in the CSK setup. He is also someone who said that he has looked up to Ashwin, and Ashwin's been a guiding figure. So a lot of the young talents in Tamil Nadu look up to Ashwin as a guiding figure, and he's been there with them, trying to put them in good places, whether be it with his club or the Dindigul Dragons setup in TNPL and all of that. So a lot many more young talents coming up from Tamil Nadu, and Ashwin's had a hand in that. He is very successful on YouTube, as you mentioned. He can be a coach one day. He already is a coach in his own academy, but let's hope that he becomes the coach of Indian cricket one day. There's so much more left for Ashwin to give off the field, and uh, let's hope that we get to see more of it in the coming days. I'm sure that a YouTube video is somewhere around the corner. It's going to come, and he's going to tell us about what he's going to do. So let's look out for that.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, the world is literally Ashwin's oyster. And I wouldn't be, very surprised that if he's there, in the BGT commentary team as well, just right up joining.
Hmm.
But I mean, very excited to see what he goes on to do next. I think there was a tweet that I saw, which I really liked, that said, please, can we have Ashwin, coaching the women's team? I would absolutely love that. Would not complain one bit, if Ashwin could perhaps lend his coaching expertise to the women's team as well. But yeah, Srijan, we've almost reached the end of our discussion. And do you have any last and final thoughts for our listeners? And this is your stage to express your last and final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, over the course of the last 1 hour, right, it's been such a joy recalling my some of my favorite moments of Ashwin and looking back at his career, and I just feel very good that we had the opportunity to do that. So thank you, Neha, for thinking of this. And as aptly as the title is, this is definitely not a Kutti story, right? The last 13 years or 14 years have been such a phenomenal ride for Ashwin the cricketer and me as a fan as well. So I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah, Srijan, I mean, really happy that you could join us on this fine afternoon on a Saturday to just talk about Ashwin's career. Such an unassuming cricketer, has done so much. I hope the world at some point just processes that this is an absolute legend we're talking about, and Ashwin continues to do the very cool things that he is doing. And yeah, on that note, I'll draw curtains on this discussion. To all the viewers who joined in, thank you so much. If you have stayed through the whole course of the discussion, please make sure kind of like this video and subscribe. We're almost close to the 500 mark, so let's get there. I will also link Srijan's article of Ashwin, where he was kind of breaking down the genius that Ashwin is in our comments as well. And yeah, please do follow us on Never in the Backfoot across our social media platforms if you already haven't. And that's all for now. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers. Have a good day. Thanks, Srijan.
Bye. Thank you.